and I'm going to set this up here for now. Okay. Yeah, like Hans mentioned, there's always going to be some kind of parallel between what the Coptic moment is and what at least all of my talks have been. And I believe that everyone that I've listened to, there's been some parallels between there too. The first parallel that I want to bring out is the idea that when we are looking to create an experience in our life, it's not about competition as much as it is about cooperation. And if we're trying to compete with other people and take away what another person has, we're making everybody poorer. And the better way is to try to cooperate and to build up everybody, because then it makes us all richer. In fact, one of the quotes that I really enjoy the most comes from Zig Ziglar, who's in the sales world. And the quote that I remember most from him is that you can get anything in life you want if you help enough other people get what they want. And of course, he's talking about sales and an exchange of value. I have this product or service, you have some money, let's make a trade. So that's where he's coming with that, but it also works on a spiritual level as well. We know it as the law of karma. When we put out good energies, good things come back to us. If we put out negative energies, negative things come back to us. And so, in what I'm here to talk about tonight, I'm here to kind of help you see what value you have to offer the world, both on a physical level and on a spiritual level, so that you can activate that law of karma in your life so that you can attract more good things into your life as you want them to be. Okay, the next thing. Okay. One of the things that I have noticed when talking to different people, especially when the idea comes up that every single one of us is incredibly valuable in the world. We all have some very tremendous value that we can share with the world around us. Most of the people, well, I won't say most, but I have run into a number of people who feel like, who? Me? I don't have anything of value to offer the world. I'm just me. I'm just a photographer. I'm just a bookkeeper. I'm just a clerk in a store, whatever. There's an example that I want to bring out in a show that Linda and I really like. It's the Doctor Who show. How many people have seen that show? A couple. Okay. Basically, it's about a time traveler who picks up a companion every so often, takes them around the universe through different time periods and whatnot. In one season, there was this companion traveling with the Doctor, who is the time traveler. And there are a number of people looking at her and saying, "You are the most important woman in all of creation." And her response is, "Who, me? I haven't done anything. I'm just a temp. In fact, I'm not even that. I'm nothing." And that's her response to that. But the point that I want to bring out of this is that she became the most important person in all of creation because she happened to be in the right place at the right time, and she said the right thing to the right person. And of course that person is the Doctor, the time traveler. And it was just 5 words. "Doctor, you can stop now." And those 5 words caused him to pull back from what he was doing at the time. And in the story, we find out that had he not pulled back, he would have been killed. A lot of things would have happened, and basically the universe was not anywhere near as nice as it is now. Of course, that is fiction. Of course, that is fiction. But it does apply in the real world. The example that I want to bring up now, and I know I've brought up this example before, but Stephen King. His first published novel, Carrie, was rejected by about 30 different publishers before it finally became Okay, yours
It wasn't his first novel.
first published novel.
Oh,
Sorry. Yeah, he did write 3 other novels before that, but none of them got published. Right. But his first published novel, Carrie, was rejected by 30 different publishers before it was finally accepted. The common story is that after 30 rejections, he threw the manuscript away, and it was his wife that pulled it out and told him to keep going. Well, I looked up the story, and it was a little bit different than that. He actually threw away the story after writing 3 pages of it, because he didn't feel like he could really write the story from the woman's perspective. And she pulled those 3 pages out of the trash and said, "You've got something here. You just need a little extra help." And she, being a writer herself, offered to help him write it from the woman's perspective. And so together they produced that book, and it later sold more than 1 million copies. The thing that I want to pull out here is that, yeah, Stephen King is the author of the book, but his wife deserves a huge part of the credit. Not just for helping him write it, but for encouraging him to keep going with it when he decided to give up. And if it wasn't for her, he may have just been a minor author in the whole scheme of things. We don't know. I know that in my case, there have been a number of times where I've heard somebody say something, or I've read an idea, and even though the idea was familiar to me, the way it was phrased, the specific words that were used, caused me to think about it in a completely new way. The example that I will pull out here, a couple of years ago, I was reading a book on hypnosis. And even though I know a lot about the power of the mind and what the mind can do and the power of belief, and I've known about the idea that our mind works on symbols, there was a phrase, actually an idea that was expressed in that book a couple different ways, that talked about going within, using symbols to act as a catalyst for change. And it was an idea that was familiar to me, but it was presented in a new way, and it opened up a whole new world for me. So part of the value that we offer the world is not only in what we do ourselves, it's in what we help other people accomplish, how we help other people see what they're working on, what they're doing. And so in that way, just a casual conversation can make a huge impact on the world. Let me pull up my notes here. I want to make sure I don't get lost along the way, because there's whole different ways I could go with that. Okay, so we went through all that. Okay, we're doing good. Another example that I want to pull out, Dr. Seuss. His first book, I want to get the title right. To Think That I Saw It on Mulberry Street. That book was also rejected by a number of publishers. 27 is the number that's used most often. When he tells the story, it can be anywhere from 25 to 29. We don't really know the exact number. But one day after being rejected for the last time, he was on his way home, and he was planning to burn the book. He was done with it. And he happened to meet an old friend. And that old friend just happened to have been just recently promoted to editor of children's books for what was Vanguard Press. And so they met, they talked, and the book was published. Just a lucky break in a way. I mean, that's actually one of the things that Dr. Seuss, Theodore Geisel, actually is his real name, he says that's the reason I believe in luck. Because if he had been walking on the other side of the street, he never would have met his friend and the book never would have been published. Just a simple little thing made a huge impact on the world. A lot of other people have had to go through rejections. We're told that they were not any good. We're told that they didn't have anything of value. Harlan David Sanders, we know him better as Colonel Sanders. When he had his idea to license his recipe for fried chicken to restaurants, 1,009 restaurants rejected the idea before one finally decided to take a chance on it. 1,000 restaurant owners said, this isn't worth the money you're asking for it. How wrong were they? Walt Disney, we've talked about him before in his getting fired at one point because he didn't have any good ideas, no imagination. When he was trying to get the financing for Disney World, not only did he do a lot of things on his own, but he was also approaching banks for financing. 302 banks rejected his application for financing. They said, this part isn't going to work. You're only doing one entrance, one exit. That's not the way theme parks work. He proved them wrong. Charles Schulz, who drew the Peanuts characters. He actually applied for a job at the Disney organization and was rejected by them. Even the good experts don't always know what they're talking about. Fred Astaire, that's a famous story. After an audition, he again was rejected. I can't remember the person's name who did the audition or graded him on the audition. Basically, the notes were, he can't act, he's slightly bald, he can dance a little. Okay, Lucille Ball, her drama instructors told her that she should try another profession. Harrison Ford, after the first project he was working on, was told he simply didn't have what it took to be a star. Charlie Chaplin, his act was too nonsensical to really be of any value. Marilyn Monroe was told by modeling agents that she should consider being a secretary instead.
Bitch.
Elvis Presley, the Beatles were told guitar music's on the way out, and besides, we don't really like your style. Oprah Winfrey, we talked about her before. She was fired from a newscasting job, saying that she was unfit for TV. The experts don't always know what they're talking about. If you feel like you have something of value to offer the world, ignore the experts. Keep plugging away and make it happen. So, how do we know if we have something of value to offer the world? First thing that I want to mention, and Tara mentioned this in the Coptic moment, we all have a unique personality. We all have a unique way of looking at the world. We all have a unique vision. What I see as the most important thing to happen in the world may not be the same thing as what you see as the most important thing the world needs now. And we're not going to see the same thing as what somebody over here might see as what the world needs most right now. One person will say, well, what we really need to do right now is make sure that all the homeless people can find a home. Someone else may say, well, that's all well and good, but we might need to make sure that all the hungry people who are starving actually get food. Someone else may say, well, you know what the world really needs now is a chance to get away from the problems and just laugh a little bit. I've seen a few interviews with some famous comedians, and that was the reason they got into their profession, was to give their audience time away from their problems. Everyone's going to see what the world needs slightly different. So I would suggest that if you take a few minutes to sit down and think about the problems that you see in the world, what is it that you see as being the most important thing that the world needs right now? And I would say that that is a project that you should find a way to contribute towards. You don't have to do it all by yourself. Sometimes our value is not in what we do ourselves, but what we help another person accomplish. So if you see that feeding the hungry is the most important thing in the world, find a food bank. contribute the time, an hour a week, whatever it is. If you see that the world needs a way of clarifying a message, that small business people are not getting their messages heard in the mass audience, there's a way to help them. Whatever it is. One of the things that I have focused on is helping those small business people get pictures, headshots, promotional images that they can use in their marketing. It's a good way to help at least some people in some way. So, whatever you see as being the most important thing the world needs is probably your mission in life. And the important thing is to be yourself, to do it your way. I mean, we could talk about Frank Sinatra and his famous song and go that way, or we can go back to like Charlie Chaplin. He had a very unique style. It was not important for him to try to imitate somebody else. He needed to be himself. Marilyn Monroe needed to be herself, not to imitate somebody else. The Beatles needed to be themselves, not to imitate anybody else. Same thing with you. Be yourself. Don't imitate anybody. Be the best you can be. Everyone has a different vision. In my field, as a photographer, I know that 10 photographers can stand in the same place, witness the same event, and come away with 10 completely different images. We all have a different style, a different way of seeing, a different way of doing our thing. So allow yourself to be unique. Okay, so let's go through there. Okay, I've already gone through there. Okay, we are doing good. One thing that all of us can do, and it doesn't matter what your situation is, it doesn't matter what field you're in, it doesn't matter what kind of job you hold, one thing that every single one of us can do is to pray, is to make contact with the Divine Spirit within ourselves and hold a vision for a better world, however we see that. And as we send out that energy of love and healing and prayer for the world, that is sending out positive energy, and the law of karma will say, hey, you're going to get some of that back in some form that works well for you. There's always something that we can do for the world. There's always some way that we can offer some value that will help another person. As some of these other people have found, even if you have a good thing to offer, sometimes you need to persist in offering it, because not everyone will recognize the value. Keep going and somebody will recognize it. Okay, so basically that's getting close to it. When things go wrong, how do we respond? Well, the worst thing to do is to say, oh, well, I guess that didn't work. Why is this happening to me? Might be a good question to ask once in a while, but don't get stuck there. If something goes wrong, the best question to ask is, how can I use this to move forward? There's always an answer to that. One thing that I want to share with you, one of the most important books that has influenced my life. Og Mandino wrote this book way long time ago, The Greatest Salesman in the World. And some of the comments that have been collected from people who have read this book is, in fact, there were some people that said that this book saved their lives. They were about ready to give up on everything, and this book gave them the inspiration, the motivation to continue, despite everything that had gone wrong previous to that. The key ingredient in this book, I won't get into all the details, but basically there's a set of 10 scrolls for success. Each of the scrolls in this fiction story talks about one of the key principles in making your life become the way you want it to be. And in this case, it's geared towards salespeople, but it can work in any in any area of life, especially the one that I'm going to read for you right now, is the scroll marked 3. I will persist until I succeed. In the Orient, young bulls are tested for the fight arena in a certain manner. Each is brought to the ring and allowed to attack a picador who pricks them with a lance. The bravery of each bull is then rated with care according to the number of times he demonstrates his willingness to charge in spite of the sting of the blade. Henceforth will I recognize that each day I am tested by life in like manner. If I persist, if I continue to try, if I continue to charge forward, I will succeed. I will persist until I succeed. I was not delivered unto this world in defeat, nor does failure course in my veins. I am not a sheep waiting to be prodded by my shepherd. I am a lion, and I refuse to talk, to walk, to sleep with the sheep. I will hear not those who weep and complain, for their disease is contagious. Let them join the sheep. The slaughterhouse of failure is not my destiny. I will persist until I succeed. The prizes of life are at the end of each journey, not near the beginning. And it is not given to me to know how many steps are necessary in order to reach my goal. Failure I may still encounter at the 1,000th step, yet success hides behind the next bend in the road. Never will I know how close it lies unless I turn the corner. Always will I take another step. If that is of no avail, I will take another, and yet another. In truth, one step at a time is not too difficult. I will persist until I succeed. Henceforth, I will consider each day's effort as but one blow of my blade against a mighty oak. The first blow may not cause a tremor in the wood, nor the second, nor the third. Each blow of itself may be trifling and seem of no consequence. Yet from childish swipes the oak will eventually tumble. So it will be with my efforts of today. I will be likened to the raindrop which watches away the mountain, the ant who devours a tiger, the star which brightens the earth, the slave who builds a pyramid. I will build my castle one brick at a time, for I know that small attempts, repeated, will complete any undertaking. I will persist until I succeed. I will never consider defeat, and I will remove from my vocabulary such words and phrases as quit, cannot, unable, impossible, out of the question, improbable, failure, unworkable, hopeless, and retreat, for they are the words of fools. I will avoid despair, but if this disease of the mind should infect me, then I will work on in despair. I will toil and I will endure. I will ignore the obstacles at my feet and keep mine eyes on the goals above my head, for I know that where dry desert ends, green grass grows. I will persist until I succeed. I will remember the ancient law of averages, and I will bend it to my good. I will persist with knowledge that each failure to sell will increase my chance for success at the next attempt. Each nay I hear will bring me closer to the sound of yea. Each frown I meet only prepares me for the smile to come. Each misfortune I encounter will carry in it the seed of tomorrow's good luck. I must have the night to appreciate the day. I must fail often to succeed only once. I will persist until I succeed. I will try and try and try again. Each obstacle I will consider as a mere detour to my goal and a challenge to my profession. I will persist and develop my skills as the mariner develops his by learning to ride out the wrath of each storm. I will persist until I succeed. Henceforth, I will learn and apply another secret of those who excel in my work. When each day is ended, not regarding whether it has been a success or a failure, I will attempt to achieve one more sail. When my thoughts beckon my tired body homeward, I will resist the temptation to depart. I will try again. I will make one more attempt to close with victory, and if that fails, I will make another. Never will I allow any day to end with a failure. Thus will I plant the seed of tomorrow's success and gain an insurmountable advantage over those who cease their labor at a prescribed time. When others cease their struggle, then mine will begin, and my harvest will be full. I will persist until I succeed. Nor will I allow yesterday's success to lull me into today's complacency, for this is the great foundation of failure. I will forget the happenings of the day that is gone, whether they were good or bad. and greet the new sun with confidence that this will be the best day of my life. So long as there is breath in me, that long will I persist. For now I know one of the greatest principles of success. If I persist long enough, I will win. I will persist. I will win. And I encourage each and every one of you to do exactly the same thing, because the world needs your value. Thank you.